Yoki is just another unlucky guy who dies in a boring traffic accident and wakes up in a fantasy world as a demon. But instead of becoming a cool overlord, he ends up as a castle employee with zero career goals. Then, a hero's party storms in, and this so-called scary general forgets his job the second he sees the priestess Cecilia. One look at a cute girl, and the mighty demon turns into a full-time simp. It all begins in an alternate world that is threatened by the Demon King and his generals. A small group known as the Heroes Party decides to challenge that darkness, believing they are the only ones able to end the threat. Yuga, the leader, looks at his companions and asks one last time if they are truly prepared, because once they step forward, there will be no path back. Each of them answers without hesitation that they are ready to risk their lives. The mage assures Yuga that she has studied every general who serves the Demon King, and that victory is possible if they follow the plan she has created. Encouraged by her confidence, the party approaches the castle and prepares for what they believe will be the final battle. The moment they cross the main doors, their hope is shaken, because the first enemy waiting for them is Yoki, captain of the demon generals. He says he has expected their arrival and warns that anyone who wishes to touch the Demon King must first defeat him. The mage refuses to listen to more of his words and hurls a fireball at his face, but Yoki brushes it aside as though it is nothing. He mocks their strength, saying even the simplest defensive spell can block their magic. The tank rushes forward and swings his blade, yet Yoki avoids every strike with ease before answering with a single kick that sends the warrior flying across the hall. Cecilia, the party's priestess, quickly casts reinforcement magic on Yuga so he can unleash the power of Excalibur, the legendary sword. Yuga pours all his strength into the attack, but Yoki does not even step aside. He releases his own dark technique, and the two powers collide until the hero's light is swallowed by shadow. A wave of energy crashes over the party and leaves them unconscious on the stone floor. While Yoki inspects the fallen heroes to decide their fate, his gaze lingers on Cecilia, and he realizes she matches his idea of beauty. His thoughts are interrupted when his generals arrive and ask whether they should end the intruders for good. Duke the Dullahan, the headless knight, urges him to finish the job, and Happiness the harpy wonders why he keeps staring at the priestess. Yoki avoids the question and says killing them would be pointless. Instead, he orders the generals to carry the heroes outside the castle and leave them near a nearby village. The generals obey, though Happiness warns that showing mercy may anger the Demon King. Yoki pretends not to worry, yet before Cecilia is taken away, he silently bids her farewell. A month passes, and the heroes return again and again to attack the castle, but each attempt ends the same way, with Yoki defeating them and throwing them out alive. One day, the Demon King summons him to the throne room, where the minister mocks Yoki for failing to kill such weak opponents. Laughter spreads through the court, while Yoki keeps his head lowered and answers nothing. The Demon King then declares that if the heroes leave the castle alive one more time, the task will be handed to Yoki's subordinates instead. The threat troubles Yoki deeply because he knows his juniors cannot survive a battle with the heroes. He promises the Demon King that the next time the party enters the castle, they will not live to see another dawn. Later, alone in his quarters, he lies on his bed and wrestles with the decision he must make. He understands that the heroes possess enough power to defeat even the Demon King himself, and only his overwhelming abilities have kept them from victory. Still, he cannot allow them to face his subordinates, and he realizes the next encounter must end differently from all the others. A couple of weeks pass before the heroes' party enters the castle once again, and this time, Yoki decides the battle must end for good. He tells Yuga that the party should learn from its mistakes instead of returning every few weeks only to be defeated again. Yuga refuses to listen and rushes forward with Raven, the red-haired tank, and together they attempt to trap Yoki with an attack from two sides. Yoki moves faster than they expect, blocks both strikes, and answers with a purple blast of magic that forces them back. Before they can steady themselves, he fires a second blast that slams them into the wall. Cecilia runs to heal Yuga and Raven, while Mikana stays behind to hold Yoki in place and buy time. Mikana releases a spell that Yoki blocks, but she follows it with a curved fire attack that explodes a moment later and catches him off guard. The explosion has little effect because his power is far beyond that of a normal general, and Mikana wonders how anyone can be this strong. Even so, her effort allows Cecilia's enough time to restore the two warriors so they can stand again. Yoki laughs and says nothing will change no matter how many times they challenge him. Yuga grips Excalibur, gathers all his energy into the blade, and charges for a final strike. But when the smoke clears, Yoki remains untouched and asks if they finally understand they cannot defeat him. Yuga steps back, yet refuses to give up, saying they must defeat the Demon King at any cost. To everyone's surprise, Yoki offers to let them pass to the throne room if they leave Cecilia behind. Yuga rejects the idea at once, but Makana argues that the life of one priestess cannot outweigh the lives of millions. Cecilia herself speaks and tells her companions to go on without her, and Yuga promises he will return for her as soon as the Demon King is defeated. The party moves through the gate, leaving Cecilia alone with Yoki. In the silent hall, Yoki feels awkward and asks how she is, but Cecilia remains tense and declares she will fight even if she has no chance of winning. She fires a spell that Yoki blocks, and he quickly tells her to calm down because he has no intention of harming her. Confused, she demands to know why he kept her behind. Yoki gathers his courage and admits he has liked her since the first day he saw her and wishes to go on a date with her. Cecilia is shocked and can only apologize, and Yoki understands the rejection. He sinks to the ground, saying there is no reason for him to live, while Cecilia wonders if this is another trick. She reminds him that demons are supposed to be heartless, yet Yoki answers that he is not truly a demon. He explains that he was once a human in another world and was reincarnated here as a demon under the Demon King's rule. The party could not defeat him because his power is far beyond anyone else, and he is only allowed to leave the castle to attack human villages, something he hates because he still feels human inside. Cecilia asks why he does not simply kill the Demon King and live freely, and Yoki replies that if he did, the demons would crown him as the next ruler, a fate he does not want. Cecilia then tells him to abandon the demon life and return to the human world to live normally, and her words awaken hope in his heart, so he decides to accept her suggestion. On that same day, the heroes' party defeats the Demon King, and the royal capital holds a grand celebration where Yuga and his companions are honored by the king. Yoki watches from outside the city, breaks off his horns to look more human, buys ordinary clothes, and heads to the Adventurers Guild to begin a new life. The guild hall is almost empty except for a tired receptionist named Seek, who complains about working during the holiday. Yoki asks to register as an adventurer, and Seek sighs but prepares the documents, hands him an adventurer card, and warns him not to lose it because replacing it is troublesome. Weeks pass as Yoki completes quest after quest and rises from F rank to D rank faster than anyone in memory, becoming the main topic of the guild. Seek questions how a newcomer can advance so quickly, but Yoki only smiles and submits more requests. One day Cecilia appears suddenly and asks to speak with him alone. She brings him to her home and urges him to leave the guild, explaining that, with the Demon King gone, nations are struggling for power and trying to recruit strong adventurers for their own armies. She fears that if Yoki continues to stand out, some country will attempt to control him, and his strength would be as dangerous as a living weapon. Yoki promises to act more quietly from now on. At that moment, Celia, Cecilia's mother, calls them inside and tells Yoki that many marriage proposals have arrived for her daughter, including one from Yuga, the hero. Yoki grows angry and complains loudly until Cecilia tells him to be quiet and says she has already rejected every offer. Hearing this, Yoki faces Celia and declares that although Cecilia refused him once, he will work hard as an adventurer, build a proper life, and ask for her hand again when he is worthy. Celia seems satisfied and leaves them alone. Yoki then says goodbye to Cecilia and returns to his small home, waiting for the day he can stand before her once more and ask for a different answer. A couple of days pass, and Yoki accepts a new quest to defeat a chimera that has been attacking villagers without reason. Seek tells him the job may take a week or even longer. Yet when Yoki reaches the deep jungle and meets the monster, he realizes the task is simpler than expected. The creature, half chicken and half snake, lunges at him again and again, but Yoki moves far faster and lets it exhaust itself before ending the fight with a thunderbolt spell. He gathers the feathers as proof of success and thinks that since the battle took less than half a day, he may be able to rise through the ranks even quicker. Before he can leave the forest, he senses danger, and a knight bursts from the bushes aiming a blade at his throat. Yoki dodges with ease, only to notice a harpy swooping from above to claw at his eyes. He raises a magical barrier and throws the attacker back, yet another figure rushes toward him, a small pixie whose face he recognizes at once as Sheik, one of his former subordinates. Yoki calls his name, saying it is truly him despite his new appearance, and Sheik halts in surprise. A moment later, Duke the Dullahan and Happiness the Harpy reveal themselves from hiding, stunned to see their captain alive when they believed he had perished with the Demon King. Yoki tells them he is glad they are safe, but Duke angrily asks why he vanished after the Empire fell, explaining that they searched everywhere and feared the worst. Duke also notices that Yoki no longer has horns or wings and looks human, and he demands to know what happened. Yoki orders him to calm down and explains briefly that he confessed his feelings to Cecilia from the hero's party, was rejected, and chose to live as a human adventurer. The three are baffled that the former captain of the demon generals would adopt such a life. Yoki says he has chosen this path of his own will and that they are free to do whatever they wish in the peaceful world that has begun. Shaik, Happiness, and Duke immediately answer that they want to stay with him and live as humans too, and they are curious to meet the woman who captured his heart. Yoki warns them that demons have no place among humans, but the three insist that if their captain can change his appearance and start anew, then they can do the same. Hearing their decision, Yoki agrees to let them stay with him and brings them to meet Cecilia, but she is horrified when she learns that Yoki tore off Happiness's wings to make her appear human. Cecilia scolds him for acting without thinking, saying that even if he wanted the harpy to blend in, ripping away her wings must have caused terrible pain. Happiness clings to Cecilia and murmurs that she is kind, and Duke and Shaik watch with admiration, even clapping for her gentle heart. After the commotion settles, they all go inside the mansion for tea, and Cecilia asks Duke if it is true that they once served under Yoki. Duke explains calmly that he is a Dullahan, Happiness is a harpy, and Shaik is a pixie, and that all of them are humanoid beings rather than pure demons. Yoki is surprised to hear Duke speaking so openly, because in the past, he was almost silent. Duke admits that his quiet nature was because of Yoki himself, recalling how, when Yoki first arrived as their captain, he hated him. Yoki had been a withdrawn figure who avoided conversation, ignored orders from his superior Misaki, and showed no respect for the demon hierarchy. Duke once decided to discipline the new captain by force, yet Yoki defeated him with overwhelming strength, and that defeat planted respect in Duke's heart. Cecilia remarks that the three now seem to care deeply for their captain, and Duke agrees that their bond grew over time. While they talk, Yoki notices that Happiness and Shiki have gone silent and begins to search for them, worrying about the danger if anyone discovers that Cecilia is sheltering demons. They soon find Sheik asleep in the lap of Celia, who says the little pixie ran around the garden until he tired himself out. Yoki apologizes and explains that Shike is his friend and does not understand human manners, but Celia only smiles and answers that she loves children and does not mind at all. Yoki then asks about Happiness, and Celia says that headmaid Sophia took the girl inside the mansion. Everyone rushes back, afraid the harpy might panic, but they discover her standing quietly in a maid uniform that Sophia has given her. Sophia proudly introduces the newcomer as a new maid named Happiness, yet Cecilia quickly explains that she is the companion of Yoki. Sophia apologizes for the confusion, saying she expected another recruit that day. Yoki tells Happiness to change back, but she insists that she wants to work and asks Sophia if she may stay as a servant. Sophia smiles warmly and replies that she will show her the servants' quarters and teach her everything she needs to know. In the evening, Yoki prepares to leave with Duke and Shaik, while Happiness remains behind in the mansion. Shaik rubs his sleepy eyes and mutters that the harpy is lucky to stay in such a grand place. Cecilia tells them they may visit any time, and Celia, her mother, quietly takes Yoki aside to speak with him. She explains that Cecilia has been burdened with work and has not rested properly, so she plans to give her a holiday tomorrow and asks Yoki to take her out on a date. The next morning, Yoki waits eagerly at the city square, and soon Cecilia arrives in a beautiful wagon pulled by two griffins. She steps down, dressed like an ordinary girl with thick glasses, yet her simple appearance only makes her more charming in Yoki's eyes. He takes her hand and they wander through the lively streets. Cecilia shows delight in every small thing she sees, stopping at a cake shop and asking if they can return later for tea. They continue through the town, playing with cats and trying on dresses, and Yoki plans to buy her a small gift to remember the day. Their peaceful outing is interrupted when Yuga and Mikana appear nearby, also dressed in civilian clothes. Yuga rushes to Cecilia and begins speaking to her as if Yoki is not even there, inviting her to join them. Cecilia politely answers that she is already spending the day with a friend, and only then does Yuga notice Yoki. He casually says Yoki may come along if he wishes and leads Cecilia into a gift shop, leaving Mikana and Yoki outside. Mikana mutters that she hopes Cecilia falls for a commoner like him, and Yoki first feels encouraged until he realizes the words were meant as an insult towards Cecilia. He understands that Mikana's nature is far from kind. Inside the shop, Yuga continues to talk boldly to Cecilia, despite her earlier refusal of his marriage proposal, and Yoki decides he will not step aside. He enters and chooses a delicate necklace, asking Cecilia if she likes it, and she blushes and says it is beautiful. Yuga suddenly pushes forward holding an expensive emerald tiara and removes Cecilia's hat to place it on her head. Her glasses drop to the floor, and the crowd instantly recognizes her as the famous Priestess, along with Yuga and Mikena. People swarm around them, and Yoki is left alone, unable to reach her. While searching through the chaos, he meets Raven, who is surrounded by excited girls. Yoki distracts them and pulls Raven into a quiet alley to free him. He notices Raven's soft, almost girlish voice and feels surprised. Yet Raven stops him and shyly asks if they can be friends because others often mock the way he speaks. Yoki agrees before hurrying off again to find Cecilia. He finally spots her still in disguise, helping a small boy who lost his mother in the crowd, and Yoki joins the search despite suggesting she return home. Cecilia refuses to leave the child, and they continue looking together. The following morning, Yoki visits the mansion, and Celia greets him with worry, saying Cecilia collapsed from exhaustion after the previous day. Yoki apologizes for failing to protect her, but Celia assures him the blame lies with Yuga, who even forced his way into the house, claiming he would care for Cecilia until headmaid Sophia threw him out. Celia allows Yoki to see her daughter, and he finds Cecilia's resting in bed. They speak about the madness of the festival, and Cecilia asks him to take her out again on her next free day, which fills Yoki with joy. His excitement makes her laugh until she coughs, and Sophia angrily drives him from the room. On his way home, Yoki meets Raven again, who seeks advice about confessing to a kind girl he loves but feels insecure because of his voice. Yoki encourages him to be brave and speak from the heart, and Raven thanks him before walking toward Cecilia's house, making Yoki realize in horror that the girl Raven loves is Cecilia herself. Yoki realizes he may have just gained another rival in love, and the thought sends him into a spiral. He tries to believe Cecilia would reject Raven, yet he remembers they are teammates in the hero's party and begins to wonder if something already exists between them. He starts thinking about crazy scenarios, which makes him fear that Raven could take Cecilia away at any moment. Raven returns not long after, looking clearly dejected, and Yoki quickly realizes that the confession has not gone well. Raven apologizes for wasting all the moral support Yoki had given him and leaves. However, Yoki still cannot stop worrying about Cecilia, so he heads back to the mansion and calls for headmaid Sophia, who looks suspicious that he is already back. Yoki pretends he is only worried about Cecilia, yet Sophia tells him to leave. He asks Sophia what Raven said to her. She explains that Raven asked to meet Happiness. That makes everything click for Yoki, because he realizes Raven is interested in Happiness, and he starts wondering why Happiness rejected him so firmly. Curious, he goes to see her and tells her that Raven is his friend, which surprises her. She tells him there is no way she can be with Raven. Yoki thinks she hates the man, but she shakes her head and walks away without giving him any explanation. Later that evening, Yoki asks Duke and Seek what they think about Raven, and both of them question why he would let someone like a former member of the hero's party get close to Happiness. Yoki points out that he is not the one who arranged it. Duke then explains that Happiness hesitates for personal reasons. Harpies are a beautiful race, and in the past, humans hunted them for their bodies and feathers. Duke saved Happiness from some of those humans, which is why she joined the Demon Lord's army, yet he believes that experience left her unwilling to get involved with humans again. Seek argues that she does not hate humans since she chose to work in Cecilia's mansion as a maid, and Yoki agrees, while adding that Raven is also a decent person, so there is no clear reason for her to be wary of him. The next day, Yoki goes to the Adventurers Guild and notices that Kramen is nowhere to be seen. There, a receptionist asks him if he is looking for the Vice Guildmaster. Yoki asks who she means, and she explains that Kramen is the Vice Guildmaster, while his lazy reputation does not match his position at all, which makes Yoki stare at her in disbelief. When Yoki asks why Kramen is absent, she hesitates, then quietly admits he is in the hospital. Yoki leaves at once to check on him. Later, Yoki visits Kramen, who thanks him for coming. Yoki notices the bandages covering him from head to toe and asks how he ended up so badly injured. Kramen explains that his wife got angry with him, but the answer only confuses Yoki further until Kramen admits it was their wedding anniversary. He could not decide on a gift for her, which made him waste so much time at the shop that night fell before he returned home, and when he finally arrived, his wife believed he had forgotten her gift and beat him in a fit of anger. Yoki feels stunned and asks how his wife has the strength to twist his bones so badly. Kramen explains that she was once an A-ranked adventurer, and he was as well. Before marrying, they both formed a party known as the Invincible Couple. Yoki offers to heal Kramen with magic, but Kramen refuses. saying he prefers to recover under his wife's care. His overly romantic tone makes Yoki uneasy, and soon his wife enters the room. Yoki gets surprised to see its headmaid, Sophia. Kramen beams when he sees her and calls her honey, but Sophia kicks him for it before tending to his wounds. Then she steps outside with Yoki and thanks him for visiting her husband. Yoki tells her it is no trouble and asks how Cecilia is doing. Sophia tells him that Cecilia is fine but currently out on business. Yoki feels disappointed, but then changes the subject and asks Sophia whether girls truly care so much about gifts, which makes Sophia realize that Kramen must have told Yoki all about it. Yoki explains that he only wants honest advice. She tells him that a girl appreciates any gift as long as they are well thought out, and Yoki thanks her before heading off. As he walks back, Yoki feels envious of their married life and starts thinking about whether Cecilia would make a quiet housewife or an outgoing businesswoman, but then quickly pulls himself out of that fantasy before entering Raven's room. There he finds Raven collapsed on the bed like a lifeless statue and unresponsive. Yoki finally says happiness, and Raven immediately gets out of his trauma. Raven asks how Yoki knows her. Yoki explains that they have been friends for a long time, then asks how things went when Raven confessed his feelings to Happiness. Raven tells him his story. He says that he first met Happiness while patrolling the city, and at that time she was being harassed by a group of goons in an alley, so he stepped in to protect her out of his sense of duty as a knight, which made the men back off and leave her alone. Happiness thanked him for helping her, and he told her not to worry about it, then realized too late that he let his gentle voice slip out in the heat of the moment. But what surprised him was when she complimented his voice instead of mocking him. Raven told her that his voice did not match his appearance at all. Yet Happiness insisted it suited him, saying he was lucky to have it, and that moment gave him the confidence to think she might like him, which is why he later visited her. Yoki listens and says he knows Cecilia as well, then recounts his whole story with her, leading Raven to respect him for leaving his homeland to stay by the side of the woman he loves. Raven realizes how hard Yoki has worked to become worthy of Cecilia, while he has done nothing for the girl he likes. Still, Yoki tells him it is not his fault since Happiness struggles with matters of the heart, and he explains how her past trauma likely makes her reject him. Raven realizes he rushed his confession to someone like her, and now he has no hope. Yet Yoki tells him he still has a chance, then drags him to the market to buy a gift for Happiness. They visit a couple's gift shop, and Raven grows uneasy and worries that people might mistake him and Yoki for a couple. Yoki brushes it off and buys a necklace for Cecilia. Then he notices Raven hesitating over a gift for Happiness and suggests that Raven choose a small trinket that suits Happiness. Raven doubts she will like it at all, but Yoki tells her she will and adds that the trinket matches her style, which finally convinces Raven to buy it. Just after Raven finishes paying, Mikana notices them and walks over, then starts teasing both lonely boys for coming to the market without a girl. Yoki proudly declares that they are there to buy gifts for the girls they like, and before Raven can stop him, Yoki lets the secret slip to Mikana. She immediately turns on Raven with questions about who he likes, which makes him turn away from her, leaving Mikana to realize she is making him uncomfortable. But she needs gossip right now, so she drags them along to question them about their crushes. They sit to eat, and although she keeps asking questions, both boys ignore her. Knowing that Yoki will react, she brings up Cecilia. Yoki freezes mid-bite, prompting Mikana to ask how things are going with her. He admits that nothing has truly changed. Cecilia has given him a chance, but she is getting marriage proposals one after another. Mikana nods and mentions that even Yuga jumped in to propose to Cecilia. Yoki tells her that Cecilia has already rejected Yuga. Mikana explains that Yuga used to bother both girls. He acted like a shameless flirt, letting his fangirls cling to him, which delayed their party on ordinary days and left Cecilia furious. Because of that behavior, Cecilia formed a completely negative impression of him. Mikana warns Yoki to be careful around Cecilia, or he might end up getting blacklisted as well, which makes Yoki agree. Mikana then turns to Raven and starts prying into his love life. Yoki cuts her off and says he will not let a sly fox like her interfere in his friend's sincere feelings, which offends Mikana as she insists she only wants to help, then admits that she also wants love advice for herself. Raven feels surprised by her honesty, and Mikana quickly adds that it is probably a bad idea to seek advice from two hopeless idiots like them. Yet Raven says Yoki is a good person to ask about these things, prompting Mikana to trust him despite her doubts. Mikana explains that she worries about Yuga because he has started to hate her after a certain incident. Before saying anything more, she asks Yoki to keep the matter a secret, which he agrees to do. Mikana then recounts that in the past, their party kept getting defeated inside the Demon Lord's castle. Yoki acts as if he is hearing this for the first time. She admits that the party never even reached the Demon Lord himself because they kept getting crushed by one of his soldiers. Each time the demon defeated them, he politely returned them to a nearby human village. Every time they woke up, the heroes lied to the villagers, saying they had left the castle early to prepare and stay safe. The villagers believed them and continued to provide food and supplies, even as those supplies slowly dwindled, unable to support the party after every defeat. But soon it became unbearable to keep lying and coming back injured again and again. Then, one day, the demon offered to let them advance on the condition that they leave Cecilia behind. At that time, Mikana convinced the party to accept the offer because she wanted to complete the mission and protect others. Ever since then, Yuga started to resent her for agreeing to abandon their teammate, and although he never spoke of it directly, Mikana knew he held a grudge against her and asked Yoki whether he could ever forgive a friend who left someone important behind. Raven steps in and tells her she is not the only one at fault, which surprises Mikana. He admits he shares the blame because he cannot bring himself to speak up at the time. Yoki reflects that he cannot place all the blame on Mikana, since he is the one who first asked the party to leave Cecilia behind. Yoki then asks whether Mikana has apologized to Cecilia. Mikana admits she has not, because she believes it would be too uncomfortable to bring it up now. Yoki asks whether she truly wants to leave things awkward forever, and that question makes her realize her mistake. Yoki urges her to talk to her friends for the sake of their friendship, and Mikana agrees, thanking him for the advice. After Mikana leaves, Raven gathers the courage to speak with Happiness, and he goes to Cecilia's mansion with Yoki, where Duke stops them at the entrance and demands to know who Raven is. He is clearly displeased that Raven has come back after Happiness already rejected him. Duke keeps pressing Raven when Raven stays silent, which makes Duke assume that he is being ignored on purpose and calls Raven a coward. Raven finally admits he has no plan for what to say to Happiness. Duke is surprised and asks why he won't act like a proper gentleman. Raven explains that he doesn't want to pretend. After a moment, Duke finally allows him to go and speak with Happiness. Once Raven walks away, Duke tells Yoki that he was only testing Raven's sincerity. Meanwhile, Raven apologizes to Happiness for catching her off guard the other day. He then offers her the gift he bought and asks whether they can be friends. Happiness hesitates for a moment, but then accepts the gift and agrees to become friends. Raven leaves with quiet hope that this small step will let him grow closer to her. A few days go by, and Yoki falls into a quiet depression. It's been over a week since he last saw Cecilia, and the absence has left him exhausted and unmotivated. She begs to visit Cecilia's mansion, to play in the garden with Happiness, but Yoki turns him down. Yoki reflects on how relentlessly busy the hero's party truly is. Cecilia is rarely home, as she travels from city to city to heal those beyond the help of any other healer. Raven, as captain of the guards, oversees recruits and keeps the knights in order. Mikana serves as the palace mage and resolves matters for the royal court. Yuga acts as the kingdom's diplomatic representative, while also handling high-level monsters that ordinary adventurers can't manage. Compared to them, Yoki feels aimless and useless, and questioning whether there's anything he could do to lighten their load. While he is busy overthinking, Sheik jumps onto his chest and complains about how he would have gone with Duke. But Raven scouted Duke for the knights and offered him a position, which Duke took. Happiness knocks on the door and enters the room. Shaike immediately gets excited. Happiness tells Yoki that Cecilia sent her a message. She is free in the afternoon and would love to meet him. Yoki is overjoyed and jumps up, thinking about how he can finally give her the necklace he bought from the gift shop. Determined not to waste the day, Yoki steps outside for some sunlight. Just then, an old woman stops Yoki and insists he should have his fortune read, warning that his luck is terrible today and disaster awaits him. Yoki brushes her off, confidently declaring that he's about to meet the girl of his dreams and nothing could go wrong. On the way, he decides to buy cupcakes for Cecilia, but at the bakery, he's surprised to find a heavily muscled man in a pink apron selling them. Yoki asks him about the usual girl at the counter. The man explains he's her brother and that she's busy today. Yoki buys some cupcakes and asks him to pack them, but the over-enthusiastic brother shoves the bag into his chest so hard he wonders if he cracked a rib. Continuing, Yoki checks the bag and finds that half the cupcakes have been crushed. He tries one anyway and finds it delicious despite the damage. Distracted by this, he bumps into a large man who turns angrily, but ultimately lets it slide. More cautious now, Yoki still nearly steps in a pile of dog waste and begins to suspect the fortune teller might have been right about his bad luck. Soon after, a careless brat crashes into him and falls. Yoki catches him in time, But the meat skewer the child was holding drops to the ground, and he starts crying. Yoki consoles him and buys him 2 new skewers from a nearby stand. The boy thanks him and runs off. Almost immediately afterward, a man collides with Yoki and steals his purse. Realizing he's been pickpocketed, Yoki gives chase and easily catches up to the thief. He drop kicks him in the back of the head, slamming him into a wall and knocking him unconscious, then retrieves his wallet. But just as he's about to leave, a voice behind him declares that he isn't letting a robber escape. Yoki turns to see the hero Yuga with his sword drawn, ordering him to drop the purse and surrender. Yoki tries to explain that he was the victim, but Yuga refuses to listen and attacks. Yoki dodges the first strike and backsteps the following swings, but in the process, Yuga slices the coin purse in half. Deciding it's best to flee without the coins, Yoki attempts to escape, only to find his path blocked by a group of royal guards. Yoki is quickly overpowered, arrested, and thrown into a dark, grimy dungeon cell. With a frustrated sigh, he realizes the old woman's warning about his cursed day was right. O jokingly wonders if Yoki beat up an innocent person out of frustration over Cecilia not giving him attention. Yoki denies everything, insisting he was the one being robbed and that the idiot hero used brute force on him without even hearing him out. Duke reassures him that Raven has taken over the case and is currently verifying the facts. Relieved, Yoki watches as an elven guard named Irene approaches Duke to remind him that they should return to training. Duke asks her for the key, explaining that Yoki has been cleared. Irene hands it over at once, frees Yoki, and informs him that Yuga would like to apologize for the misunderstanding. True to her word, Yuga treats Yoki to an extravagant feast, and joined by Raven. Yuga personally apologizes and repeatedly asks for forgiveness, urging Yoki to eat as much as he likes. The 3 of them sit down and thoroughly devour the meal, after which Raven even writes a note, prompting Yuga to apologize once more. During the meal, Yuga admits he didn't realize Yoki was friends with Raven, and says this is the first time he has ever seen Raven lose his temper. He then recalls meeting Yoki earlier in town with Makana, and suddenly asks about Yoki's relationship with Cecilia. Caught off guard, Yoki replies that they are just friends. To his shock, Yuga eagerly asks him for advice on improving his relationship with Cecilia, unaware that he is seeking advice from his romantic rival. Overwhelmed, Yoki deflects by saying he only met Cecilia a couple of weeks ago and suggests asking someone closer to her. Yuga turns to Raven, but Raven writes that he refuses to answer since he doesn't know either. Yuga then gloomily admits he can't ask Makana because she hates Cecilia, a claim that surprises both Raven and Yoki, especially after their recent conversation with her. Yoki presses Yuga to explain his claim that Makana hates Cecilia. Unaware that Yoki is actually the demon general from that battle, Yuga recounts a past fight against a demon general, where the enemy set a condition. They could proceed only if they left Cecilia behind. According to Yuga, Makana immediately agreed. Yoki objects, saying that's not how it happened, but when Yuga challenges him, asking if he was there, Yoki quickly covers by saying he heard a different version from Makana herself. Yuga insists that Makana could only have agreed if she hated Cecilia. Yoki counters that, regardless of what Makana said, Yuga was the party leader, and ultimately made the decision to leave Cecilia behind. Though Yuga realizes there's truth in that, he struggles to accept it, claiming he would never willingly abandon Cecilia. Raven silently places a hand on his shoulder and shakes his head. Speaking what Raven cannot, Yoki tells Yuga that, as the hero, he must stop shifting blame for his own choices. The words hit hard, and Yuga breaks down, finally recognizing how unfairly he treated Makana, despite her lifelong loyalty and support. Determined to apologize, Yuga insists on going to Makana immediately and drags both Raven and Yoki along, too afraid to face her alone. He barges into her house without knocking and finds her in the middle of getting dressed. Ignoring her furious scream, he blurts out an apology for blaming her for leaving Cecilia behind. Enraged, Makana grabs her staff and vents her pent-up frustration by beating him soundly. Deciding this is no longer his problem, Yoki leaves Raven to handle it and heads towards Cecilia's mansion. On the way, Sam stops him again, this time with his sister, the usual bakery girl. She apologizes for the earlier mishap and gives Yoki a fresh, properly packed box of cupcakes. Grateful, he hurries on and continues to the mansion. He finds Cecilia seated and reading. She greets him warmly as he presents both the cupcakes and the skewers. Thanking him, she offers to prepare tea, but the moment is interrupted when Yuga storms in, loudly declaring he has realized his mistake. Makana immediately punches him and tells him to be quiet. Raven arrives as well. Makana steps forward to sincerely apologize to Cecilia for agreeing to leave her behind, admitting that, as teammates, they should never have done so. Cecilia smiles and reassures her. She explains that millions of lives were at stake, and defeating the Demon King was always their priority. She reminds Makana that after the Demon King was defeated, despite being utterly exhausted and out of mana, Makana ran straight back to check on her and collapsed from relief the moment she saw she was safe. So, the misunderstandings are resolved and peace returns. Later, as the sun sets, Yoki and Cecilia take a quiet evening walk. Yoki finally gives her the necklace he bought, and she accepts it gracefully, thanking him for everything he has done for her.
And that is it for today. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and feel free to write whatever you want in the comments section. Thank you for watching.